So paper's torn down, and now here comes kind of probably the most complicated part of this whole discussion. I work with a number of different patterns. Today I'm only using this one pattern to kind of simplify the whole process and hopefully make some sense out of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to think about this image in sections. So if you look at the pattern, it's made up of a bunch of stars, and each of the stars kind of is symmetrical, and they come to a point. So this paper, repeats at about maybe 4-inch intervals. There's at least 3 4-inch intervals here of star. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure however many sections it takes for me to get an image that's going to line up when it's wrapped around in a circle, wrapped around a cylinder. So I'm going to tear this down one more time just to get the final image that I'm going to work with. So for instance, if I'm making a picture, I'm going to want a piece of paper that is about that size. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tear this piece of paper a little bit larger than the 3 stars that I'm working with, or the 3 parts of the pattern that I'm working with. So I'm actually going to take this centimeter ruler, I'm going to use it as a straight edge. I'm going to tear it. This here is just scrap. You can use it for anything later. You can actually use that as a transfer as well. And so now I have a pattern that starts here, repeats once, repeats a second time, repeats a third time, and I've got a little bit of extra pattern to play with in case I need a little fudge factor. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a centimeter ruler. Centimeters work much better than inches, and we can thank the imperial system for that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure from point to point, from repeating point to repeating point on this ruler. So I'm going to set the 0 point of the centimeter ruler right where these 2 points of the stars connect. And then I'm going to make sure it's nice and straight across the entirety of the pattern to the very end over here. So my measurement is going to be 35.2, let's say 35.3 centimeters. So I know that that's the amount of space it's going to take to wrap around the cylinder that I'm going to throw on the wheel. So 35.2. Now what I have to do is I have to do some junior high school geometry, which I actually probably failed. For the sake of time here, I'm actually going to ask my telephone how to do math. So the formula that you're going to use to get the measurement for your cylinder is essentially the length of your pattern divided by 3.14, which will give you the final number will be the diameter you need to throw your cylinder to, or set your calipers to measure your cylinder while you're throwing. What is 35.2 divided by 3.14?
Let me think about that. Okay, knucklehead, here you go.
Knucklehead? The answer is 11.21. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to measure with my calipers 11.21 centimeters. So I would prefer that my calipers stay in place. So I use a set of calipers that are cranked down really tight and can hold a measurement really well. Something really rigid. It takes some effort to bend it to that dimension. So I'm going to set it down here. I'm going to go and measure down to 11.2 centimeters. And now I've got that measured. That's going to be the measurement that I will use to throw a cylinder, to wrap the image around, and get the final product, which in this case would be a pitcher or a vase. I have a number of different sizes of these hockey brushes, and the reason I do is for pots like this. This is a much bigger one than I would use on a cup. I have one that's actually probably that big that might be better here, but I'm going to use a brush that's a little bit smaller to show you that you can get away with it just by moving the brush up the pot as you're applying the slip. So first the slip goes on the cylinder. One pass, flip it over, other pass. That quickly. And then same thing here on the paper. Go 1, Flip it over, go 2, and then just lightly drag it across to even everything out and fill in any gaps. And then now I'm going to turn on the heat gun to its hot setting. Because this pot is tall, I'm going to actually have to make adjustments with the heat gun as I'm going. So I'll just kind of point it upward as we go here. So now I've got this cylinder pretty much dry where it should be. If I touch it, it should leave my fingerprint but not lift the slip off of the pot. This paper is pretty perfect actually where it is. That's how it should look. It should be somewhat reflective but not shiny, and it should feel tacky to the touch. Now I'm working with an 11 by 17 inch format, and the 17 goes the long way around here. So what I'm going to try and do is land this somewhere in the middle. Oftentimes I have screens that I use that would cover this whole pot, but once again, for the sake of this video, I'm trying to stay within a format that would be easier for you to work with at home when making a screen. So it being translucent makes it much easier for me to line up. I want it to be perfectly vertical when it's attached. So I'm looking through the back of the pattern to make sure that it's vertical. And as I set it down, I want to be very conscious of its verticality. And you'll see when this pot's done, it's going to have a band of clay here, a band of clay down here, and they're going to kind of frame the pattern. So as I'm turning around, I'm slowly applying pressure with my thumb, lifting up and down to work the air bubbles out and get the pattern to lie down nice and evenly. So it should look kind of, like it's laying down really tightly against the pot there. That's essentially a really good connection. There's no air bubbles trapped in there. Now I'm going to lift this back again like I did earlier. I'm going to switch the direction of the wheel, and I'm going to essentially rub the pattern here to get it to sit down ahead. And if I'm lucky, it went on really well, and the pattern should line up really well here like it has. It's actually lined up quite well. Sometimes I also like to use a metal rib when I rib the pattern on because it's a little bit sturdier than the rubber rib. It'll give me a better interface between the two layers of slip. I see an air bubble here, so I'm just going to work that spot and then go back to this ribbing process. If your pot can take it, if it can handle the pressure and the stress of this metal rib, it really does give you a better, more durable point of contact with the paper. And then, like I've always been doing here, you always work the top or the outside of the pattern last. And you see that I'm taking the slip off of the surface of the pot as it goes around. Now I want to find the seam, peel back the seam, and then hold on tight, and hopefully if your paper is strong enough weight, it shouldn't peel apart. I've used papers that pull apart when I do this. So now I'm going to kind of hold on tight and crumple it up into my hand as I take it off. And that seam actually has lined up pretty well. It's not perfect, but perfect is overrated.